2006 F-150 with a 4.6. Customer called me up last night and said, hey, my shifter don't work. It's not going into gear. I've worked on plenty of these before. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see if we can get a better look. I don't know if you can see it right there. You see that piece that's coming through the firewall. It's pretty common on these Fords. It's either usually on top of the shifter column with the, I think it's an aluminum housing with a steel shaft. That usually wears through with the bushings, or on this particular scenario, oh, you can kind of see it right there at the top. It's ran too close to the manifold, and it burns a little hole through, and then the cable starts poking out. So let's get it changed. Start by taking off those two 7mm bolts right there. And then we're gonna have to take 4 of these 10mm bolts off here. Now here we can start to see our shift linkage that's going to the bottom of the column. So you got that little nub right there, which is gonna pop off. Let's just see if I can, key's not in. But so we're gonna pop it off from here, right here, and then it's gonna come down. We're gonna pull it through the firewall here. That's where the inside of the, what I was showing you before, where it runs close to the manifold. We're gonna go underneath. We're gonna pop it off of the manifold, off of the transmission. And what I find is it easier to pull it out from here rather than from underneath the truck. It's personal preference, but that's just what I like to do. Quick little PSA before we go any further and doing any type of transmission work. I know that this truck is in park. I know that the parking brake is on, okay? Doing any type of work, you always want to make sure that you have your wheels chocked. I know these are jack stands, these aren't actual wheel chocks, but these things are under there pretty good, and these things have saved my life plenty of times before. These jack stands are older than I am. They're from Grumman Manufacturing, the company that built the space shuttle or whatever they built there. So I'm gonna go underneath now, pop the linkage off. Like I said, this truck is in park, parking brake is on, wheels are chocked. All right, so when getting this linkage off, what you're gonna need is a little screwdriver. You're gonna pop this. It looks like one piece right now because my camera won't focus, but this piece right here. All right, let me see if I can I'll pop it down. Ow. Okay. So what you can see is that this piece, let's see if I can get back on it. This piece right here. What you're gonna do is, you can almost see what I'm doing. You're popping the outside of this piece up. See, it just went up. I'll show you a better view when I get it out. So here's the piece in question. So when we were looking at it up there, I was looking at this piece right here. So when this thing slides down and locks in, it's this little piece right here that you kind of have to push over. You have to pry it over. So once you pry it over, it'll slide up over and out. And what you're left with is, here's your linkage right here. And then we have like another, I don't know, Jesus clip, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna pop this clip up, and we should be able to pull this linkage through and then pull it straight out. Like I said, now that we got it out, I like to pull it up through here. It's just a matter of wiggling it through, and just like that. So you can see our point of failure is basically right here. This is set too close to the exhaust manifold, and it melts all the plastic away, and this is what happens. This is your end result. So Unfortunately, on the new one, it doesn't seem to be any type of fix, but if this is the factory one from 2006, I'm not quick with math, but you know, it'll last just as long. So when swapping the parts over from the new cable to the old cable to new cable, is what I actually meant. This little lock is what locks the linkage on the side of the transmission. One thing you have to point out is, yes, this did start to crack a little bit as I was popping it out, but there is this little tit right here. The technical name is tit. This little tit right here. This is what locks this thing down. This falls into a groove, what locks this linkage onto the side of the transmission. So just be careful when changing these over that you do not lose this, break this, crack this, or whatever it is, because it does not come with the new one. And I haven't had to look one up, but I can guarantee you that probably not that hard to come by. And just to correct myself, because I was wrong, looking at the new one, it looks like they wrapped it in this heat tape. So like I said, the old one just had this, whatever you want to call it, which is where the point of failure was. The new one, the updated one, obviously comes with this heat tape, which is wrapped around it. So hopefully by the time this is done, this truck will probably end up in a junkyard somewhere. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing I can say is that when you're done, make sure this donut fits in the hole. Make sure, you know, that this little gasket, whatever you want to call it, fits properly in there. Spray a little lube on it, work it through the firewall. Make sure that's nice and tight, or you're going to come back for either exhaust smell, heat, or cold coming at their feet. Make sure this fits back in here. And that's it. That is a repair. That's a fix. It's a little stiff because it's brand new, but we are in all of our gears. Put it back in reverse. We know our adjuster. You shouldn't have to adjust it, but sometimes it will, depending on how worn out that cable is or worn out that connector is. That's why there's room. So correction, I have to make a correction in this video. There was an adjustment that needed to be made. I realized when I got out here, the transmission was not in park, hence the parking brake and the wheel chocks. I didn't know that, okay? So I just wanted to come on here and tell you that when everything was all said and done, everything was shifting right, everything was going good. And after I got back from a test drive, I go to put it in park, I shut it off, and I go to start it back up, it wasn't starting. And every time I had to tap this back up into park, and I would hear it click, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? So correction, it wasn't in park. I had to I realized after I got everything connected, I said, oh, shift it back into park. And when I went for my test drive, came back, and I realized this was giving me an issue. So I went underneath, loosened up that white clip, and came back up here, put it in park, went back underneath there, made sure I had a little bit of slack, sprayed some lube on it, and then put the clip back on, and now we're good to go.